This is a story called A Family Trapped by Fire. A young couple with 3 young kids are living in a 3-bedroom house in a decent area. They're not rich, but the couple both have good jobs that are well paid. The kids are all doing well in school and the family are fairly close. One day the dad, Jack, came home from work and told his wife, Sarah, that the company he worked for had gone bust and they couldn't afford to keep him on. They told him and several others that they were laying them off. Sarah said, "Well, we can live off my wages and we have enough money in the bank to keep us going for a while." "Sarah, sweetheart, I don't have a problem with you working, but I'm the man of the house and it's my job to bring in the wages and to provide for our family." "Don't worry, Jack, we'll be fine." "Yes, we will, but I need to get another job and fast." The family lived off Sarah's wages and their savings. However, a few months after Jack lost his job, Sarah also lost her job, and they had almost used up all their savings. Thankfully, their house was already bought and paid for in full. It was left to Sarah by her grandparents when they died, so they didn't have to worry about not being able to pay the mortgage. In time, Jack found a job and things started to look up for the family. One night they were all woken up by the smoke alarms. When Jack got up to investigate, the house was on fire and they were trapped. Jack tried desperately to get to the kids, but the fire was too intense. When the fire brigade arrived, they only managed to get Jack and 2 of the kids out. Sadly, Sarah and their baby son Miles passed away. The house was razed to the ground and they lost everything. Sarah and the baby's bodies were taken away. One of the other kids, Lacey, was seriously ill in hospital. She'd suffered severe smoke inhalation and serious burns all over her body, except her face. Lacey was kept in a burns unit for 12 weeks before she was allowed home. Her mum and baby Miles' funeral were put on hold until Lacey was well enough to come out of hospital. As she was 11 years old, her dad let her decide whether she wanted to attend the funeral, and she did. 2 weeks after Lacey came out of hospital, the funeral was held, and Sarah and baby Miles were cremated. The family scattered ashes in Scarborough Sea, not far from where they lived. As their house had been burnt down, the council put them in temporary accommodation until their house was rebuilt. Thankfully, the house was insured, so the insurance paid for the repairs. All the neighbours were very kind. They held a 3-day fundraising event and managed to raise a whopping £60,000 for the family. Jack just couldn't believe how kind people were being, kids including. One little girl who was in Lacey's class got £150 for her birthday, and she donated £50 of that to the family. She even gave Lacey some of her clothes. About 3 weeks after the funeral, Lacey and her little sister Ella, aged 9, went back to school. Lacey was scared that the other kids would laugh at her and bully her. To her surprise, everyone was really nice to her and they welcomed her back with open arms. She was in a wheelchair because the burns on her feet and legs hadn't yet healed and she couldn't walk. All of the other kids went out of their way to help her. The staff and kids had a collection for Lacey and Ella so that they could get new uniforms and everything else they needed for school. Of course, Lacey had to go back to the hospital once a week to have her burns checked and the dressings changed. After a while, the dressings came off and Lacey was able to do everything as normal. and as naturally as she always had. Her burn seemed perfectly, although she was scarred, but no one could really see the scars. The family all had counselling, and in time they all moved on with their lives. 6 months after the fire, all the repairs on the house were done, and Jack and the girls were able to move back in. Despite the tragedy that happened there, they all wanted to move back in. Jack told the kids if they didn't want to live there, he'd find them a new house to buy, or they could stay in the council house they were in. The girls were happy to move back in because all their memories of their mum and baby Mal was in that house. 2 years after the fire, Jack met someone else. Lacey and Ella knew about her from day one, and when they met her, they liked her and her 2 daughters, Lois and Ashley, straight away. Lois was the same age as Lacey, and they knew each other from school. And Ashley was the same age as Ella, and they also knew each other from school. In time, Lisa, Lois and Ashley moved in with Jack and the girls, and 2 years later they got married. They went on to have triplets who were all girls, and 4 boys, including identical twins. Every year on the anniversary of Sarah and Miles's death, the family go to the beach and put flowers in the sea. They do this on Sarah and Miles's birthdays, at Christmas, and on Mother's Day. The end. Thank you.